First of all, thanks, so many of you all for coming and attending the session. I had a bet with AK that I don't think many will be interested in logistics or delivery for that matter. Cool, perfect. Okay, so just for everyone, we've done a bunch of these Twitter Space sessions. When you have two Adityas on the call, it gets very difficult. So Aditya Kondavar, AK, AV, Aditya Venkatesan, just easy that way to demarcate. Just quick introductions. I take care of something known as employer branding. You can think of it as brand marketing with this company called Meesho. Meesho is valued at about $5 billion in the e-commerce space, predominantly catering to the tier 2 plus markets. Also, utilize third-party players for logistics, right? So I take care of everything to do with brand marketing. AK, you want to do a quick round of introductions?
Yeah, hi folks, Aditya Kondawa here. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for JST. I look after operations, marketing, love meeting new people. Me and Devi have done a lot of these sessions. I hope some of you have attended that in the past. And that's about it. We help build long-term portfolios for our clients. And yeah, that's it.
Nice, perfect. Cool. So I'll just start off with this, right? This is a reading predominantly of Delhivery's DRHP, right? And we tried to, I think during our research phase, when we tried reading about delivery and logistics, there was so much to read. I think eventually we just decided, okay, let's stick with numbers and let's stick with what we have in the DRHP because it's an endless bit of information, right? There's so much to read, and I also feel like there's not enough media hype on a lot of these companies, typical B2B companies, right? But having said that, I think there's so much to unpack, and it's been really fascinating for both AK and me to just go through an amazing amount of information. And some of you might understand this, right? Logistics is in a hot space now. You have new players like Zepto's looking at last mile. People want your 10-minute delivery groceries are like all the rage now. So there's a lot to be spoken about on this space. But I think in fact, just about yesterday, I think, or day before yesterday, ExpressBees announced a $300 million funding, right? So they're the newest unicorn. By the way, AK's second one in Pune.
Oh, really? Oh, crazy.
Yeah, the second unicorn in Pune.
The first one?
First was Dhruva, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
okay.
I think it's Dhruva. So yeah, pretty hot space right now, and a $300 million amount, of course, pretty huge amount for ExpressBees there. So there's a lot to be spoken about here, and Delhivery's own growth dictates the tempo for logistics in India, right? If you go through some of these numbers, AK will be doing like a peer comparison. It will tell you so much about how much logistics has improved, and still how much more room for improvement is there, right? So there's a lot to be discussed. So without further ado, let me just get straight to it, right? And we'll dive deep into this. Perfect. So as of FY21, Delhivery is the largest and fastest growing fully integrated logistics service player in India by revenue, right? This is fact at this point, which is incredible because you have incumbents who've been here for 30 plus years, and you have big brand players like Blue Dart and the others, right? So pretty cool. Staggering growth and all. It's a business that's been built away from much media scrutiny or hype. We all know the CEOs of so many of these companies, Paytm, Zomato, but Delhivery almost none of you would know on this call. I certainly didn't, right? In 2014, Delhivery's revenue was at $8.5 million, right? And in comparison, Blue Dart at the same point in 2014, the revenue is about $260 million, right? So 8.5, 260. As of FY21, Blue Dart does about $443 million and Delhivery does $493 million, right? So in other words, Delhivery's FY21 revenue is now a little over 10% more than Blue Dart, right? So the newbie has disrupted the incumbent. It's pretty phenomenal to see this growth, and absolutely insane to see how Delhivery has managed to get this market, right? But look, just looking at at that alone would present sort of a false narrative, right? After all, Blue Dart makes a profit, right? And that's about, $16 million after taxes. And Delhivery does about $50 million or so in losses, right? So it's not a direct comparison, but just to give you a sense of scale and strength in terms of where Delhivery was and where it's grown right now. A quick overview, 80% of Blue Dart's, sorry. Let me paraphrase that. 80% of Blue Dart's revenues comes from the B2B business, right? Whereas nearly 60% of Delhivery's business comes from just e-commerce. So different strategies, completely different business also in some sense, right? And, AK will get into these details as we deep dive into Delhivery's business. So it's not as simplistic as to call this a straitjacket case of disruption, but in some sense is the changing topography of the internet, right? And where your core strategy and execution lies and where the future of logistics lies. But yeah, having said all of that, full credit to what Delhivery has done. They've really shaken things up in the market. If you go down a little deeper, sorry, AK, you were saying something?
Yeah, AV, just wanted more color on this e-commerce segment because,
Yeah.
I think, the name Delhivery also comes from the fact that, these guys started delivering in Delhi and, as the e-commerce industry grew, they also grew like on steroids, right?
Yeah.
So could you just tell us more about that, the relationship between e-commerce and them and how much do they cater to e-commerce? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So e-commerce is like a big play now, right? And lot of tech companies are like a pure play tech company, right? They have managed to sort of put an API call, which is in other words to say that they have outsourced their logistics completely to third party players, so they can focus purely on tech, which is how a lot of these companies have grown exponentially because core tech is focused by these companies. There is some idea of this in other markets as well. So, for example, Pinduoduo, which is a big player in China, does this. But having said that, Pinduoduo has also earmarked ambitions to get into logistics and build out that experience, right? But we'll jump a little more into that. But 42% of Delhivery's total revenues is just from the top 5 customers, and all of them are in e-commerce, right? It's a centralized business, heavily dependent on the few. And full credit to them. They have tried hard to diversify and understand these risks, right? So if you compare from 2019 to when their DRHP was last filed, they have reduced their dependency on top 5 by almost 15%. So they are trying to sort of diversify, right? In fact, according to their third-party research, right, Redseer, which has conducted this research for them, 20% of all e-commerce volumes are being transported via delivery, right? So absolutely insane business. Particularly, there's this segment called the express parcel segment, which is key to delivery success. But AK, I think you should explain express parcel and all these terms, right, so that readers get familiar with these things. But yeah, we'll go through all of these terms. But this is the sort of broad overview on where things stand, and they've done a fantastic job at that. With that, I think I'll hand it over to you, AK. Numbers, data, P&L, revenue. Hit us with all these numbers, and then I'll keep butting in. Over to you, man.
As always, you're leaving the tough part to me. A nice AV, nice strategy.
Go for it.
So yeah, let me thanks for that, AV. So here's a company that has really hyper scaled up with the growth in e-commerce in India, right? So of course, when I talk about the revenue for the company, right, it stood at 1,700 crores in FY19, and that has scaled up to almost 4,000 crores in FY21. Now the company has just reported Q1 FY22 figures. So in Q1 FY22, they have reported a top line of 1,400 crores. So I'm just going to annualize it, right? So we have just one quarter's revenue. So I'm going to multiply it by 4. So we get around 5,600 crores. And when I put a CAGR on that, it's a 50% compounded annual growth rate in the top line, which is just massive. So like AV said, this is a company that has grown by leaps and bounds, the company even a bit blew dart. But over here, we need to understand that, the company did an acquisition of Spotan as well, which is into express logistics. So I'm just going to explain express logistics over here for everyone's, understanding. And I will touch upon the 2 other segments as well. So express logistics basically concerns all those packages which are less than 40 kgs in weight. And the turnaround time or the delivery time in these kind of packages is usually 3 to 5 days. So express parcels or express delivery is something that is used heavily by e-commerce channels, right? Because the average weight of these goods is very small. So talking about profits, AV, there isn't any at all. The company has lost almost 2,500 crores in the past 3 financial years.
Yeah, so I had a quick question here. Considering most modern B2C businesses, especially these internet businesses, they have subsidies, customer acquisition, and so on, right? But what is the rationale over here? Like, how would you interpret loss? Why does this company have loss? Because there's no subsidies as such, and it's not customer facing.
Yeah, sure. So AV, we need to understand that this is a traditional business. Okay, it is as traditional as it gets. All right. So this is a traditional business that has tech slapped on top of it. As simple as that. Now, tech is, of course, very important for a logistics company because, they have to streamline, they have to really chart out a path for all the packages, they have to pick it up, they have to deliver it. They have turnaround times, right? Of course, for example, e-commerce, all of them have turnaround times of 3 to 5 days, right? So tech is an integral part of every logistics company. Okay, but not let's get fooled by that. Okay, Delivery has formidable tech. Okay, there's no denial of that. But let me tell you something more, right? So when we talk about a Netflix or a Facebook, right, they don't need to incrementally spend for every new user that they get, right? Their capex, their capital expenditure is all front loaded. So, for example, a company like Netflix, right, they have spent close to $20 billion last year on their content. Now they don't need to really spend on every customer that comes in. But when you look at delivery, right? So every package, every new customer that they get, right? They have to spend something extra. Now, for example, they have a new e-commerce player that has come in as a client, right? So just assume that they want to transport 100 tons, right? So then delivery would have to set up a warehouse. They would have to buy a fleet or a few trucks. They would have to hire more manpower maybe for last mile delivery. And the signs of this are visible in the profit and loss statement as well, right? So we are going to look at the cost of goods sold, right, which are direct costs. So when I look at the P&L statement, right, the direct cost is the expense of the freight, handling, and servicing cost. So when I look at FY19, this cost was 76% of revenue. In FY20, it was 79%. And again, in FY21, it is back at 76%. So what is really happening over here is that, the more revenue delivery clocks, the more they have to spend on all of this direct costs, which are freight handling and servicing costs. So that is why, as the company keeps growing in scale, they have to do more capex. They have to buy more trucks. They have to buy more hubs as puzzle pieces of the delivery, chain. They have to hire more last mile delivery partners, and so on. So that is why this is not like a platform business wherein everything of the capex has been done, and they have to keep spending more to keep clocking more revenue, and that is why the loss AV.
Got it. Okay. Let's jump a little bit into the IPO proceeds itself and understand what's happening there.
Sure. So this is going to be $1 billion IPO AV. I know you love your billions and millions, right? So still, I'm going to convert into crores. It is 7,500 crores. Fresh issue is going to be 5,000 crores, and 2,500 crores is going to be an offer for sale. So of course, quite a good shareholding is there in Delhivery. You have Carlyle, you have SoftBank, you have Times Internet, and so on. The company wants a valuation of approximately $6 to $7 billion. And if I'm not mistaken, the company even trades at a similar valuation in the unlisted markets. Now, one thing that we must understand over here, AV, is that, I think as per news articles, I think as per a Money Control article, right? So the IPO has been delayed because in the IPO markets have been really turbulent now. Especially, tech companies or new age companies have been battered heavily in the market. So, yeah, I think they have taken a call to just, maybe take a rain check. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. In fact, I think that ExpressBee's announcement also was interesting because a $300 million funding round came out of the blue, right? I found that very interesting and the growth of the space. But let's do a little bit on pure comparison and understand truck capacity, fleet strength, and details like that.
Sure, AV. Yeah. So the insane thing about the Indian logistics market is that the organized sector accounts for less than 3.5% of the total logistics market, right? In fact, over 85% of our fleet owners own less than 20 trucks. These are trucks that are usually smaller and poorly utilized. They are driving less than 325 kilometers per day on an average. Not just that, the pieces of the puzzle of the logistics puzzle are also not that great. India has smaller warehouses that are less than 10,000 square feet, and these account for 90% of the warehouse space in India. Now, not just that, AV. When I talk about logistics, right? So India spends approximately 13 to 14% of the GDP on logistics, whereas a developed economy spends 7 to 8%. So this figure really tells us that the logistics market in India is inefficient. But we are moving towards a more efficient system with introduction of e-way bills, GST. You can also, our roads are getting better, right? So we all know of our parents who, we all know how we used to travel when we were little kids, right? The roads were very bad, but of course, all of these things are getting better. I think in the recent budget as well, logistics has had a very big push given by the government, right? We are talking about dedicated freight corridors. We are talking about world-class expressways. We are talking about airport terminals. So, of course, a lot of these things are going to get better. But yeah, I mean, this is a work in progress, AV.
Yeah, I think the spend, the GDP spend is an interesting data point because the logic around that is anything to do with automation and tech is still not efficient given India's general landscape, right? And that severely accounts for spillage and all these other details. And I think in many ways, Delhivery has tried to address this with how they operate a freight, right? How do they look at packages and how they look at warehousing? But even then, I think the general commentary, at least for my research, has been the fact that despite all of this, automation and tech still needs to play a bigger part in reducing time taken for delivery, and also in terms of spillage and in terms of perishable commodities and things that are happening on that front. So it seems to be there is enough room and scope for improvement. But I think once if you explain their categorization, right, how much they're focused on express parcel versus others, I think you'll get a better idea of where delivery stands and what their focus is, which is not typically B2B.
Sure. So before I get into that, AV, you're absolutely right. India is moving towards a more efficient logistics system, right? The last mile delivery system was something which was distorted, so that is getting better. All of our roads are getting better, and like you correctly said, there are a lot of leakages now. And just imagine, if the GDP spend on logistics gets reduced from 13 to 14% to 7-8%, right? That's going to have a huge multiplier effect on not just the GDP but the companies as well, because it's just 6% straight to their operating profits, the margin of 6% addition to their operating profit margins. Now coming to their segment revenues. Like we discussed, right? The majority of the revenue comes from the express parcel segment. This accounts for 70% of the revenue. So express parcel segment is basically packages which are less than 40 kg, like I said. Number two is what we call PTL or partial truckload. This refers to packages or consignments that weigh between 10 kg and 2000 kg. Over here, I think Delhivery has 11% revenue coming in from this segment. And number three, we have
this is the B2B segment, right? This is
absolutely
the big
yes.
B2B.
Yep.
Okay, got
absolutely.
it.
So number one is again B2B and B2C. Number two is purely B2B. And number three, truckload, which is a full truck or a trailer of freight, directly from the shipper to the origin point, is again B2B.
Got it. Okay.
So that's it, AB. They have three segments: express parcel segment, partial truckload, and truckload. That's about it. Yeah.
Got it. Done. So just want to deep dive a little bit into one, right? I know we have gone through a lot of numbers, but a little bit on tech that I thought was interesting. And one of the things that I found on my research, right? This was particularly during COVID times. And I found this very interesting because this is a tech edge case, right? So Delhivery has this one product called AdFix. Are you aware of this, AK?
No, dude, no. I am hearing about it for the first time.
Okay, got it. So from what I gather, right, and this was built during like COVID times too, and the primary objective of this is to identify if a particular location falls under a containment zone, right? So what Delhivery does is the moment you realize that there's a containment zone in this particular area, automatically the delivery does not happen. But the tech was essentially built to identify localities that this cannot be sold, and this whole tech is called AdFix, right? And it helps sellers to focus on customers who they can serve. So I don't know how the ultimate integration worked, but essentially if any seller was in a containment zone, they could not pick up the load or even for customers deliver the load, right? So I found that quite interesting, and I don't know how much of it was played, but it was done heavily for sellers especially, right? This way their efforts were redirected to areas where express delivery was possible, right? And revenue opportunities was really high. I think
that's interesting.
More importantly, right? Yeah, I think more importantly, sellers were able to decline orders even before the payment, right? So that entire payment cycle, then returns, all of that was sort of sorted, right? And this reduced the overall pressure on the logistics staff significantly. So very efficiently done, cost-wise, big win for Delhivery, according to everything that they have basically claimed. And what they essentially did was they geocoded latitude and longitude coordinates so that each house can be placed on a map for the delivery personnel to navigate sort of effortlessly, right? And seemed like an interesting piece of tech. And they also claim that it can be used later at any point in time, right? For example, very handy during natural disasters like floods, special situations, elections, dry days, all of that, right? So yeah, I thought that was a pretty good integration, and the way this does is, and a little bit of insight that I have is that Delhivery basically has one simple API plug, and they build this out, and then it automatically goes to everyone is integrated with them, right? So. And because of their large fleet, they have this database of all the containment zones, right? And then immediately it compares and sees if it can be delivered at any point. But more importantly, all of their clients get access to this automatically. And I found that tech piece to be like quite interesting. But yeah, that's
I think these are all measures to reduce the turnaround times, and I think that's good. It's better than delivery guy just going out in the open and asking people for directions, right? It saves leakages, as simple as that. Yeah, so that's good. These little things will count a lot. Yeah, when you compound them.
Yep. Agreed. Cool. So, anything else to add, AK, on especially the express parcel side and how much that dependency is there, or anything else to add on this side?
I think we covered that, AV. Of course, 70% of the revenue is from express parcels, and I think it's expected to go up manifold. So, since we have both read from the same report, right? So, you must have seen that India's e-commerce parcels this year, I think, were like 2.5 billion, which is like 250 crores. And it's expected to go up to 460 crores in the next 3 years, and which is like just crazy. You have 460 crore parcels going out in a single year, which is like almost a crore and a half a crore, 1.15 crores every single day. So that's just crazy. So definitely,
it's
1.1
lakhs, by the way, not crores. It will come out to 1.1 lakhs a day.
460. No, dude, it's 1 crore. 460 crores, no? 460 crores by 365.
It's 1 crore? Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay. got it.
The total industry, not just delivery, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Oh, the industry. Acha, got it. Okay, carry on.
Not just delivery, yeah. That's about it. What else?
Should we do like a peer comparison now and maybe present like a bear case? Because I think we have spoken a lot on like what are the good things and what are the interesting points. But like a peer comparison would be a good idea now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was just studying its peers AV today. Its peers are VRL Logistics, Blue Dart, Gati. I'm sure you must be knowing about VRL Logistics. AV is very famous in Karnataka. You have Mahindra Logistics, you have TCI Express. So, when I look at the the CAGR for revenue, EBITDA, net profit, and the margins for all of these companies, right? It has been in single digits or high single digits, right? There's nothing great about this company as such. For example, if I were to talk about a company like Mahindra Logistics, right, it's predominantly dependent on their own in-house OEM, which is Mahindra and Mahindra. When I talk about a company like VRL Logistics, right, it depends a lot on freight as well, because they're into bus service as well. They have bus freight, they have truck freight, not purely B2B logistics, but B2C as well, wherein maybe people like us are using their buses, right? So it's not directly comparable as such. The most interesting company that comes close to Delhivery is TCI Express. So I was just listening to some of their con calls today, and the company's managing director Chander Agarwal has really strong opinions on a company like Delhivery. He never leaves a chance to bash them up.
The call was today. Was the call today?
No. It happened in the past. So I listened to the Q3 FY22, Q2 FY22, and Q1 FY22 call, right? So I did a few basic scuttlebutt checks as well. I checked on Twitter. What people had to say about Delhivery. So it was all the same. People complaining. And coming back to the MD of TCI Express, right? So they claim that they are the market leader in express parcel, and they are growing market share every year. And of course, the stock price has been phenomenal for TCI Express. So. Of course, for me, especially, here's a company which is making profits, right? And it is gaining market share in the express parcel logistics. And the company has been investing continuously, right? So it has hubs at Nagpur, Gurgaon, it has even in Delhi, Chandigarh, Kolkata, right? So it's growing well, it's doing capex, it is into last mile delivery as well. And the management was very positive about it. The management was so positive that they even said that the industry that is worth $350 billion today will be $1 trillion in 3 to 4 years, which is crazy aggressive, right? So yeah, that's about the peer comparison. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Let's do like a bear case scenario now, right? I think we've spoken a lot in terms of tech. I think the fact that they're very, very bullish on e-commerce. And by the way, this is something that even I couldn't verify, but interesting insight. Expressways claims to do about 3 million orders per day, in according to their announcement, and they just turned a unicorn, right? I think in our math when we calculated this, I think it was a
It was
million
11
orders or
lakhs.
one.
Yeah, it was 11 lakhs.
11 lakhs. Correct. Exactly. Yeah, it was 11 lakhs, not crores, AK. Oh, you said the industry. My bad. Oh, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
It was about 11 lakhs for delivery, which is interesting. I mean, of course, it doesn't make much sense when you think about it now, but certainly something to look into, right? And clearly shows the market growth and potential. So yeah, there was a lot we spoke on the bull case scenario, right? Logistics is growing, huge unorganized space. Trucks themselves are severely underutilized. The average truck, runs for just about 325 kilometers, heavily underutilized. But so there is opportunity, right? And there's a lot on the sort of bull case. But let's talk a little bit on the bear case. Do you have like specific points on the bear case? Because I think I have one or two, but would love for you to start off, man.
Okay, sure. Before I present my bear case, Evie, I just wanted to tell you something. I was just traveling from Hyderabad to Bombay, right? And so on the outer ring road of Hyderabad, right? So there's a huge delivery warehouse, right? And I just happened to pass by it and I saw it nicely, right? So they have a very modern fleet, right? They have all Volvo trucks and the likes of it. Their warehouses are huge. And when you compare them to, unorganized players, who have maybe 30, 40, 50-year-old trucks, that automatically explains to you that, maybe delivery is not optimizing cost to the best of their ability. Now, of course, I don't say that you use 30, 40-year-old trucks, but I'm just saying, their costs are very high. Having said that, let's look at the express parcel segment, right? So I just have a table in front of me and it shows me the realization per shipment. Okay. So in FY19, the realization per shipment was 93 rupees AV and it has come down to 77 rupees as of Q1 FY22. So a very simple logic over here, looking at the gross margins and looking at the realization per shipment, I can easily deduce that, they are trying to undercut the competition, which has been confirmed on a few con calls as well. So it's a tactic straight out of the book. You have PE money backing you. You have a lot of money to burn, right? You're not really answerable to your shareholders or anyone as such. You have to just clock growth. AV. So you very well know AV, how the PE industry works, right? You have to show growth at any cost. There are Masayoshi Sons and Tiger Globals that you need to satisfy, right? So the company's realization has been falling down a lot. The company's top line has grown. They did a very big acquisition. And one thing that I did not really like from the DRHP was they did not really tell the reader that how much revenue was accrued because of the Spotan acquisition. Not just that, of course, like I said, the more delivery grows, the more capex they have to do. I'm not saying that they will not make a profit. They definitely will, because there will be a certain economy of scale at which they will build such a big scale that the incremental customer will not really add that cost to them. The incremental revenue will be more than the incremental cost, is what I'm saying. But yeah, for me, I would really like to listen to the management first. I want to hear the strategy. Are they going to be in B2B or B2C? The company's management in a news article stated that they have 1,300 crores earmarked for acquisitions. So the strategy seems very clear to me that they are taking the inorganic route. But again, it may not, the kind of asset that they acquire may not really be accretive to them. Everyone has their own logistical setup, and it may not really fit inside, right? You just don't acquire a company for the sake of revenue. And that's my bear case. I would really love to wait and watch this one because, see, the industry has huge tailwinds. Of course, like I said, from $300 billion, it's going to be $1 trillion. The organized market share is just 3.5%. And, the government is taking all the steps for it to be an organized sector, GST, e-way bills, etc., of course, right? So, yeah, that's my bear case, yeah.
Interesting. Got it. I think for me, the biggest bear case would be their reliance on e-commerce, right? and considering the dependence on what you categorize as express parcel service, right? That to own the customer experience, you need to have the full suite of logistics as well. At least in my opinion, right? Because I don't think logistics, a customer experience is at a point where logistics can cater to those needs that customers have, and this is especially true when you talk about returns. Customer returns in e-commerce it used to be really, really big, and it still is big, right? And you have players like, for example, Myntra now, who's saying that customers who repeat returns now will be charged a particular fee, right? And that's becoming a problem because it's a huge cost on the logistics partner. While this might work from a revenue perspective when you outsource logistics, it spoils customer experience because returns gets delayed, pickup returns gets delayed, and delivery of a new product also gets delayed by that stance, right? So owning that customer experience is such a crucial piece for a lot of e-commerce companies that the bear case is considering, about 40% of their overall, 60% of their revenue comes from the top 5 players. If any of these top 5 e-commerce companies decide to up their stake with building out a logistics platforms, that's a big blow for delivery, right? And in my opinion, in all fairness, if you look at other advanced players, right, folks like Pinduoduo in China, Alibaba, of course, has an entire fleet. They're very bullish in the logistics. They offer it as a third-party service, and they own that whole piece. But companies like Pinduoduo, before their chairman and CEO left, he outlined that logistics is a big piece, and now this will be a portion that Pinduoduo will sort of build out from scratch. And considering the signals that they want to not just own the pure play tech part, but also look at logistics and integrate on experience, you wonder at what point will Indian e-com players look at this and say, okay, we need to own this end to end, and only then we can offer that full customer experience. So I think it's a race for both sides, right? On one side, Delhivery wants to build this out to the point where no e-com player ever cares about logistics because they have really good API integration and your customer experience is sorted. And then from an e-com player, they'd rather not take care of the burdens of logistics, but get to a point where they own customer experience to say that, your returns are getting picked up faster, your delivery times are faster, it's reflecting well on the app, so you have no problems there. Sellers are happy with, again, packaging and things like that. So I think that's the one big puzzle. So I know it's a little bit of not that much of a bear case, but given precedent in other markets, it is enough to consider.
I always knew about Amazon having their own ships, trailers, planes, and airports as well. But we don't know about Pinduoduo. I always thought, that e-commerce companies would always, like to focus on their core competency, which is just marketing and just trying to be an aggregator, right? But you're of course right. When e-commerce companies reach a certain scale, they may always try to squeeze out their delivery partners. Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
But do you see any other brand other than Amazon or say maybe a Flipkart in India who has that kind of a negotiating power? Like you said, the five top customers account for 60% revenue, right?
Yeah, most all of the e-com players use multiple partners for delivery, right? Everybody does that for now. So again, then the risk is with competition right now, right? Folks like Expressbees and all of that. It's one can also argue and look at the bear case. The major bear case is again a competition that comes in, right? And players like Expressbee and others who are doing micro delivery like Zepto and folks, right? At what point will you start looking at these players and saying, what kind of inroads will they make? Now, for example, in Indonesia, there's a phenomenon where customers can actually pick who they want this to be delivered with, right? So you have from a fulfillment center, an orders picked up, and you can get it same day delivered or even like within 3 hours, right? Now that kind of market sophistication is not there yet in India, but players are building out that property, building out that tech. So that's another area to be looked at. But yeah, these are a couple of points. Some of them are wishful thinking, some of them are me randomly having some opinions on it. But yeah, all to be factored in while you look at deliveries, the negatives of delivery, so to say. But great business overall from my point of view.
Yeah. See, AV, no doubt about it. What they have built is definitely great, and I hope a lot of people get inspired by it and build world-class businesses out of India, right? But of course, as investors, we have to keep a rational view.
Agreed. Yep, I think that's pretty much it. We can ask if anyone wants to come up, have any questions. And on that note, since AK
Sure.
spoke about Amazon and delivery, one recommendation from me would be on YouTube. There's this channel called Wendover. I'll just spell it out. It's WENDOVR, Wendover. They have an amazing piece on the modalities of logistics and everything that right from Amazon does to what FedEx does. And Amazon, I think, has a bigger fleet than FedEx now, if I'm not mistaken, or they have a
Yeah.
significant
Yep.
portion than FedEx. So yeah, good YouTube channel to go check out. Lots of amazing content. But yeah, that's it from my end. Any questions, we can take them up or we can wrap up, okay?
Yeah, guys, request. If you guys have a question, please request yourself as a speaker. I think I have a few requests, David. Let me just take them up.
Okay.
Ravindra, you are a speaker. Your question, please. Ravindra, you're a speaker. Can you unmute yourself and ask a question, please? Thanks.
Yeah, Aditya, thanks for the opportunity. I'm also very bullish on this space, as you mentioned that our logistic cost is 13-14% of GDP, and anything which can make us competitive is make us competitive on the industrial level where we are lagging. But I have two doubts on this thesis. One is the reason for developed market to be very competitive is they use more rail networks. So if we have to come down to say 8-9% of GDP for logistics, we have also to use the rail network, and for which the government is working like the direct freight corridor and everything. The west is partially operationalized, and we are working on the east corridor as well. So will that have a bearing in terms of making that long-term potential for express delivery on the road side? Be it any company, VRL, TCI Express, or Delhivery. So does that impact the long-term potential?
Yeah. So I'll take this up. So Ravindra ji, yeah. So 1 second. So I'm not very sure about the quantum of the amount, but ACC 2 quarters back had just mentioned that they saved around 150 to 200 crores just because they transported their cement through the western one portion of the WDFC, which is the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor, right? I think a year back, Maruti used one of Kolkata's waterways to transport one consignment of the car. And again, they said that they saved a lot of money due to that. Nitin Gadkari had a video where he just said that just in Mumbai, just because cars are stuck in traffic, India is burning say 500,000 crores of petrol, diesel every year. So the kind of savings that are going to come because of say dedicated freight corridors or waterways or longer, better, faster expressways is going to be huge. I mean, if I'm not wrong, again, Anish, you can add something over here if you want. But I think he said that just because we make our roads better or we make them faster, he introduced paperless toll, and it's a digital payment of toll. He said that it will add 0.5 to 1%, not sorry, 0.05 to 0.1% to the GDP. Again, very tough for me to quantify how much it is going to get added, but definitely all these kind of measures are going to help us. And you rightly said, US is majority dominated by railroads. Yeah.
Yeah, and also another risk of what we understand in this kind of business is they are very difficult to scale. They are very localized. You may call it a muscle power of people operating at the local level, but apart from few companies, there are very few companies which are scale pan India. It's similar to like construction kind of companies. There are very few L&T of the world, and there are lots of wannabes. So, how you think that when we are building that growth model, because all this new tech age companies need a growth model visibility for at least 15-20 years for the valuation they are commanding. So, how you think of these kind of sector where actually scaling beyond a level is a challenge, as has been perceived till now. We may be wrong in future. These companies, the new age companies, will break those model and scale pan India at a grander level.
Oh, no, again, Ravindraji, I agree with you. These kind of models are very difficult to execute and scale up. That is the reason why a lot of logistics companies in India, which have been here for decades, they don't have a very big market cap as such. Again, a company like Delhivery has taken a totally different approach to it, wherein they have acquired a company and they still want to go ahead and acquire companies, right? So obviously, like I said, I really want to listen to the management first. I want to see how the company performs, and then yeah, definitely maybe take a call on this. Again, not a recommendation, but yeah, just want to see how this business pans out. So
Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah, yeah,
sorry to butt in. Just
yeah. We
one
got
Just one point. I got disconnected before on the first question, right? The propensity for even if you take the basic numbers, right? Like, so for example, if you take the truck utilization factor, right? In India, it's about 325 kilometers on an average. Whereas if you look at your Western counterparts in the US, it's at least 500 plus kilometers. And that tech is now improving. And there are also tech-oriented companies improving that, like Blackbuck, and there's so many others in that front, right? So I think there is considerable amount of growth just looking at that. Just in terms of you spoke about roads and what is the propensity for movement and things like that, right? So this is one factor for sure. And second one is also the average warehousing size, right? In India, it's heavily unorganized at this point. In fact, if you compare India with the US counterparts, there is absolutely no sense at all. Like in India, you have 8 to 12,000 square foot, 8 to 12,000 square kilometer foot, right? But in the US, it's about 100,000. So there is a huge difference in that itself to be bridged, which can always be argued that now you have a asset heavy model, right? Like you can always look at that from that point of view. But again, you'll have to wait and see how these things play out and what is tech utilization on that front. But I feel like that there's considerable scope for growth for all of these companies. But yeah, I just wanted to make that one point.
Yeah, even everyone, all this revolution which are coming, the new solutions, the new companies which are coming, they are offering different kind of solution which was not available else earlier. So we need to keep a very watchful eyes, because some of these companies will make it really very big. Yeah, thanks for organizing this. This was the few details which you mentioned was very helpful. Yeah, that's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, just for all listeners, I mean, there's so much on logistics. Sometimes you feel like this seems like a very narrow discussion on just delivery and specifically on their DRHP, right? But I think there's so much more we can uncover and so much more we have learned doing this. Would encourage folks to go and like do a lot more reading. Yeah, if there's no one else, AK, should we take one more or should we conclude?
Yeah, let me just. So I can see 7 requests, AV, but I'm not really able to see those people over here, so I can't approve anyone as such. I don't know why.
Okay. See, Twitter doesn't like you either.
Okay, I think, yeah, let's close it out, yeah.
Yeah, folks, you can DM AK me or reply to any of our tweets, and happy to share some of our research. And then, yeah, I think AK, you're going to put out a detailed piece at some point on delivery if you haven't already, right? I think you should tweet that out so that folks can look at that as well.
Yeah, so I put a thread a few months back. I'll retweet it, yeah.
Yeah, good time to. Perfect, awesome. Thanks everyone, and thanks and sorry for boring you on a Thursday at 8:30 p.m.
You were the boring. I was fun. Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
everyone.
Take care.